Peace, y'all, and welcome to my sanctuary. My name is Rumunera, and I am the owner and conjurer here at Conjure Works. Welcome back to my sanctuary. I hope you all are having an incredible week. If you are not having an incredible week, hold your seats. In the infamous words of my sister, bitches, the week is not done. Okay? So do what you can to push through this. You're anti-black? I didn't know you were anti-black. Why are you checking out my hands like that? As many of you already know, I will be hosting my second Nothing But the Blood class virtually again via Zoom, taking place April the 21st, 2024. And this is really a class that I feel every womb should be a part of and should be participating in. We are preparing ourselves for the Passover that takes place on the 20th, okay? The Passover takes place on the 20th. Those of you who have been acclimated in church or you grew up in church, many of you will be very familiar with the Passover ritual that takes place in the Bible. Now, we've come a long way since a lot of us have sat in church and sat under a doctrine. And it's been quite some years since I have too, right? But as many of you may already know, I will be hosting my second Nothing But the Blood class on April the 20th, 2024. And this is a class that I truly feel that every womb who is awakened during this time needs to tap in and be a part of. This class is going to be super powerful. This class is also representing the Passover, right? Those of you who grew up in church or who are acclimated or who have roots acclimated in church, this is a class for you, especially if you grew up under the doctrine of the Passover. Passover is a powerful ritual that was given to us biblically to initiate in order for us to encamp protection around us. So Passover is a reminder to God's people in particular as it relates to the Bible. He was speaking to the Jews. And so Passover is a reminder to the Jewish people of the Lord's faithfulness or his promises, okay? His promises of protection, his promises to bring them out of suffering, his promises of resilience, but ultimately his promise of liberation. And so Passover is really a ritual around remembrance, is a ritual around remembrance, and it's also a ritual dealing with passing over or passing through or into another consciousness, another state of consciousness, right? So really quickly, here we are in the month of April officially. Happy New Year's. Those of you who know, the new year is really just officially starting because now we can see the earth begin to awaken. We can see a lot of the animals begin to come out of hibernation. And when we see that happening outwardly, you must understand that those are the same things that are happening within. Those are the same beckonings that spirit is desiring for us to also take on. So as we come into this new year, being in the month of April, let's look at what the first month of any year symbolizes. When we look at the first month of any year, it really represents new beginnings, right? Or new stages, or a new dispensation or state of consciousness. When we look at dispensation metaphysically, it represents that great outpouring of power, love, and so of love, and the spiritual life or a spiritual life that is now taking place in all who acknowledge the I am presence, right? This is the dispensation is not necessarily speaking about this figure descending upon the earthly realm in order to save your soul or to bring you salvation, right? When we look at the spiritual nature of the I am, is really a representation of us, and where we see another example of how we are to understand the I am, you must look at the Christ principle, because metaphysically, when we look at the Christ principle, it breaks down into the spiritual activity of the I am. Who is the I am? You are the I am, right? Jesus was just an allegoric figure to teach, right? So he was an allegoric figure to ultimately teach us about thyself. And to thine own self be true, and how to be true to thine own self, how to pick up our own consciousness and walk with it, right? So while you're waiting for this figure to descend, to pick your own cross up and walk with it, the commandment of the deity Jesus gave you the command to pick up your cross and to walk with it, right? And so you can't necessarily say that you're operating in the wholeness of Christ, even if you are a Christian. There's no way that you can say that you are operating in the totality of Christ if you are not implementing the rituals that the Christ principle gave you. And one of those principles is Passover, and that is what I am inviting you to join me in. Okay, so the first of the month represents new beginnings, right? Fresh starts, or a new dispensation or state of consciousness. Dispensation tells you that you must choose it. So whatever path that you find yourself walking down and within this new year, understand that it's because you're choosing it to be so, right? So let's look at what Passover symbolizes. Passover symbolizes passing out or over one state of consciousness into another. So here we see Spirit is really beckoning us to come up higher as it relates to our consciousness, to delve in deeper as it relates to our consciousness. Under the law of passing over, mentally we are letting go of error thoughts, okay? Any error thoughts that is conflicting your spiritual nature, okay? Are passing over. We're essentially moving from one state of consciousness into a new state of consciousness because you're choosing to, right? And so in passing over, what we are essentially doing is that we are affirming the principle of the I am. We are affirming the principles of the nature of self, okay? We are affirming, and we are also denying that which conflicts or goes against our spiritual nature, right? And so our denials act as affirmations, and those affirmations affect the cells of our body. And you can liken it to old cells passing away and allowing the new cells to take its place, right? And then the last thing that I want to touch on is the symbolism of the lamb, because it's important here. The lamb being killed during Passover. So the symbolism of the lamb being killed during Passover, the lamb represents the lower nature of man, or the lower nature or animal-like consciousness that we are to give up when we forsake the physical view of life for the spiritual or the Christ mind. Meaning that when we are walking the path of the animal consciousness, we are prone to race consciousness. When we talk about race consciousness, we're talking about death, we're talking about evil, we're talking about lying, we're talking about gluttony, we're talking about anything that goes against the nature of Christ, or against the nature of the I am, against the nature of you and what you are supposed to be doing in this lifetime. And so the lamb being killed is you really giving up the. So it represents us almost foregoing or sacrificing the material plane in order for you to have full access to the spiritual. Okay, and so as we get ready for Passover, really think about what you are willing to sacrifice as it relates to your environment, as it relates to your personality, as it relates to your habits, as it relates to your addictions. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice in order for the universe to shift you into this new level of consciousness? What are you willing to give up in order for you to elevate as we get ready to move into the season of Passover? Okay, and so I'm going to stop there because throughout the week I want to be coming on and I want to be dropping some more information as we get closer and closer to class. And so class will take place again on April the 20th. There are 2 classes that are right. So there's 2 classes, 2 group Zoom classes that you will absolutely have access to as we prepare ourselves for April the 21st. The ritual officially begins as it relates to blood keys and the activation of blood keys on April the 14th. And this is a group activation, okay? And from day 1, we will continue for the next 9 days, which will take place from the 14th until the 22nd. Okay. When you guys are getting ready for this class, please understand that you need blood keys in order to be a part of this class and in order for you to activate Passover on the 21st. And so if you plan on being a part of this class, I urge you guys to make sure that you get your orders in for blood keys before we are out of time in order to get it to you on. Okay, so April the 14th, the ritual begins. On April the 22nd, the ritual is finished. On April the 21st is officially Nothing But the Blood class, part 2, blood keys. When I first hosted the first Nothing But the Blood class, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I was coming to you guys with just the information that the Divine Mother had been giving me as it relates to the Divine Feminine connecting back into ritual as it relates to her cycle blood. Okay, and then this time around, the Divine Mother has given me the spiritual tool in order for us to use as it relates to us activating and working with our blood, not only for Passover, but even after that, okay? And on the bottom of your blood keys, you will find the code, and this code will take you to the page for all the information. With all the information that you are going to need in order for you to prepare yourself to get ready for ritual and for conjure. I am super excited. I plan to only take 33 activated wombs with me before the Divine Mother as we begin to activate ourselves in order for us to lay the foundations of protection around our homes as it relates to our family and our friends. If you know someone who you would like to be a part of this ritual, I encourage you to come on over to conjureworks.com de la Rue and pick up your blood keys, and let's get ready to go into this powerful ritual together. I am excited to see all of you. Registration is now available at www.conjureworksdelarue.com, as well as your blood keys ritual that will come with your blood keys clayworks as well as your hyssop bundle. I look forward to seeing y'all. Peace.